All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, Tuesday. It's a short week. Welcome to the From Live to Online showcase. As the showcase in January was such a great success, we thought it would be a nice idea to give customers a little more of our great five-star speakers. Mike Handcock will be joining us today. He's one of the five-star speakers who's been in our camp for many years. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Kathy. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. So I thought what we'd do today is I'm going to give a short presentation. It's going to go for around about 20 minutes, and then we'll open it up for any questions. So let me just screen share, and I'm going to plan to do this a little bit differently because whilst, of course, this is my time, I'm also part of the Mike Handcock and Lundy Jack couple as well. So, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that. So we'll just wait for the presentation to go up. And hopefully just give me a thumbs up, somebody that you can see that. So, okay, great, perfect. So I'm going to do this in three ways. Firstly, I'm going to talk a little bit about us. That's Mike and Lundy. Then I'm going to go into the content of my presentation today. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more in the end about how we actually work. So let's jump in. Firstly, a little bit about me. I'm an ex-professional musician. So I've done 12 albums and I've toured as a musician as well. So that gives me some space to operate with a lot of different tools, if you like, from a stage. I'm also an ex-corporate general manager, marketing and sales, financial services, had around 4,000 people working for me in one way or another. Been a multi-award winning entrepreneur in across Asia Pacific and into Africa. And speaking wise, I've spoken more than 3,000 times in more than 50 countries. So let's take a quick look at Lundy, who's my wife and business partner. Her background is industrial psychology. She's an ex-HR director of a logistics company, one of the biggest on the planet. She's a winner of the 2024 Africa Women in Leadership Award. And she also is global as well and has spoken in more than 50 countries. So there's a little bit of background about us. Now, in terms of content, what do Mike and Lundy speak about? Well, I think that we're a little bit unique in that whilst my preferred topics are leadership and sales, and Lundy's preferred topics are leadership, strategy, and mindset, one of the things that we've been able to do over the years is create a significant amount of intellectual property. And our intellectual property has been licensed by universities, business hubs, incubators, other speakers, coaches, consultants, banks to use with their people as well. And what I'm showing you here is I did this quick video for you just the other day, just to give you an idea of our intellectual property. This is our intellectual property book. This is what we call our playbook. There's the conscious leadership area. This is over 500 pages of our intellectual property. As you'll see, there's stuff on mindset, the money train in marketing, influencing there, I saw. Then we've got stuff on, what's the next area? Oh, leveraging media there, types of influences, online versus offline. So we've got business models that we've created for many different things. As I said, over 500 different business models. So that gives us no shortage of content to do with your organization, whether we're teaching leadership, customer service, whether we're looking at sales and marketing or any of those things. So today I wanted to pick one of those little pieces of content. And I thought I'd start by getting you all to go to the chat and tell me what is the secret behind the mystery of productivity, engagement, and growth in organizations. So I can see the chat's already there, and we've got all has already put in good morning to all. So just go to the chat and tell me what is the secret to the mystery behind productivity, engagement, and growth in organizations. And don't be shy, because I won't be saying another word until I've got some comments. Nikki says effective leadership, communicating the vision, traditional communication, driven change. Let's see if we can get one more here. Okay, teamwork. All right, very, very nice. Okay, we've got some things in there. So thank you guys for that. And thank you for being engaged. Well, here's the problem for most organizations at the moment. And given we speak at company conferences very regularly, we see this all the time. See this little guy here in front of the books? This is a spider. And what most people are doing at conferences at the moment is they're brushing away the cobwebs, but they're not killing the spider. They're bringing up all sorts of solutions to the mysteries of productivity, engagement, and growth. But all that does is brush away cobwebs. And guess what? The spider comes back. So we're all about killing that spider once and for all and solving the problem. And the problem comes down to a very simple word. The mystery of productivity, engagement, and growth is the word significance. So if you want an organization to grow, if you want people to be more engaged, if you want to build a stronger culture and a greater leadership, you have to focus on significance. 68% of people in a survey that Gallup did of more than 5 million people do not feel significant at work. And some of the reasons are because their work's not going well, their health's not the best, they've got money problems, they don't feel part of a community, and they don't feel that they can socialize with the people around them. So this affects their productivity at work, affects the way they show up, and affects their ability to do the job. And it gets worse than that, but we don't have time to cover it. So on top of that, there is also this significance curve. So people feel the most significant when they're around the mid-40s age group. After that, they feel that people aren't paying the attention to them anymore. And before that, they feel that people aren't paying attention to them. So as a leader, if you want to build out your productivity, if you want to have a greater culture, you need to be aware of this one thing, because if you solve this, you are solving everything in your business quite simply. And so we have the significance framework, which is really about the playground that people have, the impact that people make, and also the essence from which they come from. So I'm just going to have a quick look here. Thank you, Nikki. Significance that makes so much sense. To be engaged and productive, people need to feel significant and that people see them. Absolutely, you're quite right. So I want to take the first one, which is really the playground. And so what's the playground? If the playground is the environment that people find themselves in at work, and this starts right from the job interview. You know, this is how most people come into an organization. They apply to an ad that's been placed by a recruiter that's been paid for by an organization that has an ad that looks exactly the same as 25 other ads advertising similar positions. They apply to that. Suddenly they find that they're at an interview, and then they're at an interview and the person behind the interview asks them a bunch of same questions they would have been asked anywhere else and tells them how good the company is, what it's looking to do, all of their values and everything like that. And then they get the job and they start at that company and they find that that's not the case at all. In fact, I want to share an exact example from a client of mine. She was in the television industry and she applied for a job to produce a program. She'd never produced a program before. She got the job after going through the exact process I told you. And then she rolled up at work her first day to have the receptionist say, "Who are you? I've never heard of you. No, I'm reporting to such and such. Sorry, he's on leave for a month. So why don't we just put a desk aside somewhere for you because there's no room and you sit there for a month and when he comes back, he'll know what to do with you." She left and it was so disturbing for her, she became a lawyer focused on the legalities around employment law because of that exact thing. That happens so many times in companies these days. Then what is the culture of that playground now that we're in that company? Are people lifting you up? Is your boss talking down to you? You know, is there a DEI, diversity and inclusion culture in that organization? Or is that just something they say? When I worked in corporate, my CEO actually said to me, and I was the general manager reporting directly to the CEO. There were only 8 of us as general managers, huge company, biggest in the country. And my CEO said to me, I guess we've got to do something about this social contribution thing. Go and find us somewhere that we can stick some money so we look good. That's what happened to me personally. So what's the culture when somebody actually comes into an organization, they start to hear these type of things from other people? May not be the CEO, but from other people in here. And then if they've got problems or if they want training, what's the type of support that they're actually getting from the organization in doing this? So that happened to a friend of yours. I see that comment there from whoever that was. Yeah, exactly the same thing. So it's very, very common. So the first part of significance is to get the playground right, to make sure the environment's right at work, to make sure that the culture's right, to make sure the way you induct people into the job is right as well. And if it's not right, for the existing people to fix that. The second thing is impact. So every single person, in order to feel significant, wants to create impact. They want to feel empowered. They want to feel encouraged. And they want to make sure that they have a purposeful vision. You know, in the concept of conscious leadership, which is one of the things we talk about, Forbes magazine said conscious leadership comes down to just 5 things. A leader must be values-based. A leader must have an air of legacy, knowing that they are going to be handing over that role. They must want to make a difference every day. And they must have a collaborative mindset. And number 1 on that list is that they must have a purposeful vision. And that vision is much more than just making a big profit or getting a bonus. They must have something purposeful. So when you are trying to make somebody feel more significant that you're working with, and this is the same at any conference that we'll be talking to, every single person in that room wants to feel more significant. You have to show them how to become more empowered. You have to give them encouragement constantly to take that empowerment, to grasp it, and to run with it. And you have to have a purposeful vision. I remember back when I was a sales manager, and this happens to people all of the time. People run into your office and go, "Boss, we've got a problem." And you go, "What is the problem?" The minute you ask that question, you are taking the monkey from their back and putting it on your back. So by the end of the day, most leaders end up just being a bunch of monkeys walking around with a poor leader underneath of them because they've done that. I learned very quickly to say, okay, tell me about the problem and imagine I wasn't here today. What would you do about it? And so by them saying, well, the problem is this and this and this. Okay, great. So what would you do about it if I was away today or I was on a month's holiday? And then wait for them to answer. And even if they got it wrong, if they got it wrong, I'd say to them, so what else is it that, apart from what you mentioned, that you could also bring into that? Then encourage them. And then I'd say to them, look, you probably got it 90% right. I would just add this fine tune on top. Well done. By the time they come into your office 3 or 4 times with those things, they don't come in anymore. They're empowered and they feel encouraged to go and create impact in the business. So by you having a purposeful vision that guides all of that and allow that empowerment and encouragement to happen, that is going to be the second part of allowing people to be significant. The third part is deeply personal. The third part is about somebody's essence. Let me just go to the chat before I talk about this and see what's here. Okay, this happens all too often, unfortunately. Onboarding effectively is such a key way of creating the culture you want. We need to get the playground right. How true. Great advice, empowering and encouraging others to revisit the problem and think more about it themselves. Fantastic. And Millicent, hi, how are you? That's such a good approach, Mike, that also allows them to think critically about the solution. How true. So I want to talk about the third part of the pie, right? Playground was the first, impact was the second, and the third part is essence. Every single one of us brings a uniqueness to the world. Yet, if we look back at the old pictures of Henry Ford's company, we don't see any ability for that essence to be expressed there. But today, we're living in a very modern world. Today, we're living in a world where we really, truly, hopefully understand that people are individuals and that people need to express that individualism. So firstly, we want to encourage people to express their essence through their work. I'm a musician. I could reach over and hit a guitar that's sitting right next to me right now. That's a huge part of my essence. When I was in corporate and I was general manager, sales and marketing in the financial services company, I had to entertain our top producers all of the time, the top 10 or 20 people that brought you the top 30 or 40% of the business. That was one of my roles. And my boss, the CEO, said, just get a corporate box at Eden Park and take them to the rugby. They weren't all into rugby. So we did different things that allowed me to express my essence as well. There was music involved. We sponsored one of the orchestras in town. Of course, we had the rugby for people who like that. But one of them, the number one things that I was able to do is I love cooking. And I'd recently come back from a cooking course in Italy where I'd spent a week there. So I brought all of those people to one person's home that was in the central area who'd given me their house, and I cooked dinner for them and their spouses, the top 10 people. That was in 2002. In 2017, Lundy and I were in the south of France, sitting in a restaurant, and one of those people and his wife walked past, and I hadn't seen them since 2004. And they sat down for a drink, and the first thing they said is, "We never forget when you cooked that dinner for us. That was one of the best things we've ever had done for us." It's all it is doing is allowing people to express their essence. And it doesn't matter whether it's the mailroom clerk, a leader, a salesperson, the customer service person. If you start bringing what's inside them out and allowing them to show their uniqueness and then molding that with the organization's direction and goals, which is one of the things that we'll share with you how to do when we speak to your audiences, you will have people who are far more involved in your business. You will have people who are far more engaged in what it is that you are doing. So the message that I have with my one piece of content out of that huge content book today is the role of making people feel significant is the most important job of any leader in 2025, 26, and 27. So I want to finish up the last couple of minutes of the talk today by sharing with you how Lundy, Jack, and Mike Handcock actually work. So firstly, I'm going to do this in a way which is the Unique Speaker Bureau way of doing it. Firstly, I want to talk about the fact that you can mix and match us. We are a husband and wife. We are also business people together and business partners, and we are also both very good speakers. So we've both spoken thousands of times around the world. So if you like Mike, hire Mike. If you like Lundy, hire Lundy. If you like Mike and Lundy, hire Mike and Lundy. If you want Mike to do a keynote, but Lundy to do a workshop, do it that way. If you want Lundy to do most of the keynote, but have Mike give 5 minutes of input or run a strategy session during the day, do it that way. Just talk to the people at Unique Speaker Bureau about what you want. But this gives you so much power because I won't say it's two for the price of one because we're a little bit more pricey than your average keynote speaker that lives next door and really doesn't have the globalization that we do. But you're really going to get huge value from mixing and matching us in a way in which suits your audience. Secondly, fueling. This is what happens before the event to which we come. Number one, if you like us, just go and talk to somebody at Unique Speaker Bureau and they will tell you how much we cost and go into the contract and everything like that. Once that's done, once that contract is done, we are going to get on a briefing meeting with you where we're going to ask you a lot of questions and we want to really understand what it is that you want to get from the conference, what your people want to get, what actions you want them to take straight after, and in the months following that event that we come and speak at. We want to understand the change that you're hoping to happen from having us there. From that, we will create a first draft of the presentation for you, and then we will take you through that first draft. In fact, the way we do it is we literally record the draft and we send it to you, and we make it a short version, 5-6 minutes long. We take you through everything we're doing, and we ask you to sign off on that or make any changes. Once your changes are made, and often there's very few, if any, then we'll get a final draft to you, which is the complete slide deck, but including how we're going to work with that slide deck so that you can actually sign that off, so that way you know what we're doing with our audience. And that includes finding out from you things like how much content you want, how much engagement you want, and how much humor you want in the talk, because all three of those are important. Then we will do a series of warm-up videos for you that you can launch out to your groups, and anything else that you want, any other collaterals that you want, infographics or anything else that you want to launch to warm them up about us. And then we will also go and do research on the conference that you're having and on some of the key people, if you want us to, in that conference, so that you know that we make sure that we hit our mark. Then we go to Ignite. This is the day. So this is the day of your event. We'll arrive early. In fact, we've been doing talks in the last week, and we've got one coming up this week where we're talking around about 11:30. We're there at 7 a.m. to do the tech check and to make sure everything works before anybody else is there. We work with your technical team. Then we'll do a meet and greet with all of the people that are coming to your event. We don't hide in the green room out the back. We'll network with the people. We'll talk to them. We'll tell them how great you are, how excited that we are about the conference, et cetera, et cetera. Then we'll do our dynamic presentation, which is the composite of the content, the humor, and the engagement in the levels that you said that you wanted them. And then we'll be available to network after that. Sometimes people want us to do extraordinary things, like I've played on bands with bands at the galas for conferences before. I've been asked to stay around and do other things and network in the evenings, all of those types of things that we'll do, or we'll simply take your lead on what is best for your conference. Following the conference, we're going to accelerate the message. So there'll be a debrief meeting where we go through how did this land and what would you like us to do next? And in each and every situation, we put together a learning management system of implementation. What does that mean? Well, here is one. This is a screenshot of a learning management system we've put together for a financial services company that we've worked with. And it goes through what we did in our 45-minute keynote in deep dive. The keynote had 4 parts in it: opportunity marketing, how to leverage partners, how to create an eye-catching brand, and how to create a nesting strategy. Each of those goes deep dive into videos that talk about everything, plus worksheets for every single topic. And then there's an action plan for a 90-day plan to take any member of that conference that they want from their current state to their desired state in just 3 months. So then we'll also make for you at that point recommendations on anything that we picked up that we think that you might like to know about what's going on and the feedback that we're getting from people there that could help you in your business going forward. So these are the things that we've done, and this is where I'm going to finish up and hand back to the USBI team. We've done keynotes around the world in every continent on the planet. We've done workshops on every continent on the planet. We've done strategic facilitation. That means with things like boards of directors and management teams on most continents on the planet. And we've done everything from 30-minute keynotes to a full 11 days immersion program where conferences have been taken overseas, and we've worked with those groups for a full 11 days in places like Egypt, in places like Mexico, in places like Turkey. The list goes on and on and on. So you can really work with us from anything from a 30-minute keynote that really nails the end of your conference to a 5, 6, 7-day retreat with key people in your team that you want to either reward or you want to have taken to the next level. Thanks very much to the USBI team and USB team for this, and I'm now available to answer any questions. Let me quickly go to the chat and just see what's come up on the chat here as well. So I see we've got quite a number of people in the room here. Our boss says, come in with one problem and 3 solutions. That's great, Shelley. That's really good leadership. Nikki, if anyone has any questions for Mike, don't forget to put them in the chat. Brian, thanks for a question. What strategies have you found most effective for fostering authentic leadership engagement? That's a really great question. So firstly is to understand what the current leaders know about the values of the organization. I'll give you a very specific example here. I sat with the CEO of the second biggest bank in the world. I think it's still the second biggest bank. And he told me that their leadership really understood the vision of the organization and that they didn't have any problems. So I asked him for his internal phone book. I picked it up, rang the COO, got him on the line, said, hi, Mike Handcock here. I'm in a meeting with such and such at the moment. I just wondered if you could tell us what the 5 values of the organization were. And his answer was this. Just a minute, I've got them here somewhere. Just let me find them. I said, it's okay, we'll call you back. And then I looked at the CEO and went, so we don't have a problem with the leadership at the moment being authentic because they don't even know the values of the organization. So, Brian, it starts with values. That's the first thing. And it starts with truly understanding and living those values and having a culture of those values within an organization. It starts with some research on how people are already integrating with those values as well. We can do that live from stage by something like Mentimeter or something like that. We can do a blind one, or we can do something before. And then we start talking about what is the definition of the word authentic. And some people call it integrity. Most people come up with integrity, but integrity is very culturally different. For instance, depending on your religion and depending on where you are in the world, the word integrity means 2 different things. And I dare say if we had people put in the chat now, what does integrity mean? It means something different. So we're really talking about transparency here rather than integrity. And if somebody's transparent, they become more authentic. So, you know, the boss who says, I don't know the answer to that question, but we need to find it, is much more authentic than the boss who says, well, I would just do this. So it's a process to go through the authentic leadership model. It's normally 5 things, but it starts with values. It moves to transparency, and it ends up with some of the things that I mentioned in conscious leadership, like collaborative visions and things like that. Nikki, thank you, Mike. This explanation of Fuel, Ignite, Accelerate process has made it so clear. Such value from speakers. Thank you. Samantha, I missed yours. I'll see that now. I like the longevity of the talk. Great way to get more value for clients. Absolutely. So thanks for picking that up, Samantha. We can quite literally create, and have done before for another company, something that was literally a 3-month fully immersive program at the back end of that they can do and that they manage themselves in-house. They didn't even need us. The other thing that we can do by the nature of the systems that we use is we can literally give feedback to that organization of, these are the people who have enrolled, these are the people who are engaged, this is who's not engaged. And it's so fantastic. Last year, I remember we did something for an organization. There's about 160 people in the room, and we had 150 people do the program. 140 of them completed it. And this organization is just going from strength to strength. And it was led by the first person who completed the program was actually the CEO herself. So it was just phenomenal. Nikki, thanks. We've got that. I agree, authentic leadership is so key. Okay, any other questions? Anything else we'd like to discuss? Our values at BP2W are innovation, integrity, collaboration, and empowerment. Great, perfect. So that's a really nice one. I'd try and get that into some sort of acrostic, Brian, or get it into a sentence that people can work with, so it makes it easy to understand. I mean, I think the problem for corporations, and I understand this, we had the problem at the corporate I work for. I worked for numerous corporates, but the last one as well, we spent millions of dollars on values. But the best we could come up with at that stage was putting them on drink coasters that everybody had. And, that was the event. I can see people laughing, right? That it is, it's a joke. And then 5 months after we did that, nobody could remember the values. I remember standing at a hire car company at an airport in South Africa, looking at the person telling me what I can't do, whilst behind them was their values on the wall telling me that I can do it. So I actually asked them, could you remove that picture off the wall and show it to me? And they looked at me strangely and said, why? I said, it'll become obvious. And then they showed it to me. I said, do you realize this sentence here tells me that I can exactly do what you're telling me I can't? I never saw that value thing the next time I went to that dealership, by the way. It wasn't there. They'd removed it. So they're lovely values, Brian. I think it'd be interesting to ask people, and I won't make people do this, but it'd be interesting to ask you if you can actually remember the values of your organization as well. But I don't want to focus on values because that's just one small part of working with leaders. Working with leaders is really about confidence, giving them confidence. Most leaders don't have confidence. It's about showing them that they do know, and it's about showing them that what they need next is already within them. And I think that's the most important thing of leaderships. And making people feel significant. And that's really what the talk is about today. The more you can make anybody feel significant. How do you feel when people at the office remember your birthday? How do you feel when somebody remembers, that you were so excited to go away this weekend at Easter and have a golfing weekend or something like that, or go fishing with your children? How much does that make you feel significant when people do the small things? This is not about the big things. This is about the small things. And I have a part in the keynote where I talk about a story of George, who was a concierge person at the Livingston Hotel in Zambia, where I was speaking once. And at the same time I was speaking there, I was being interviewed to be the next president of the Global Speakers Federation, but the Wi-Fi in the hotel was just dreadful. And I was trying to get it fixed, and I just couldn't get on the Zoom calls, and I was practicing to get on the Zoom calls because I was being interviewed by 21 people from 21 countries for this role. And I told George, can he do anything? He said, I'll fix your problem. 2 hours later, he fixed my problem. He'd gone and paid for, out of his own pocket, a router from a cousin of his that gave me 30 meg up and 30 meg down, enough to do my call. I got the job, by the way. I am the next president of the Global Speakers Federation. But the beautiful thing there is not about me, it was about George. So did I give him the money for the router and a big bonus? Of course I did. But that person, that one person, made me feel significant. And I also went to the CEO of the hotel and I told that CEO about George. And I said, I don't know why you've got him working this job. He needs to be in leadership because this man is a leader. That's what this stuff's about, making people feel significant. Guys, if we haven't got any further questions, I think we've brought it to a nice close.
Mike, thank you so much. I've listened to you speak so many times before, but there was just some more powerful messages for me this morning. So thank you. It's been great it's a great way to start a week and a great way to start a Monday. I just wanted to say, the way that you unpack the fuel, ignite and accelerate, process, and what you and Landy can add from as value adds as speakers, was phenomenal. It was really clear, and I think for customers to understand what you can add, to their event or to their organization was wonderful. So thank you so much.
It's an absolute pleasure.
It doesn't seem like there are any further questions. So
No.
yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm going to hand over to you, Kathy.
You're on mute, Kathy.
Sorry. Thanks so much, Mike. Those points were really important to make a company flourish. If you're not significant and you don't feel wanted, you're not going to be very effective. And I really found, like Nikki says, the way you and Landy just make people walk away with so much knowledge, because you just give them this long-term insight to make an effective business. So thanks very much. And I'd like to thank everybody who took time out of their day to see Mike. I'm sure you've got some really good pointers there.